We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
I'm the greatest thing that ever lived. I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day.
Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X, two men who showed the world what it meant to be unapologetically free, refusing to conform with a society that wished to control and exploit them. Their alliance could have been a juggernaut of societal change, a true revolutionary dream team with the perfect blend of intellect and charisma, one which frightened the white supremacist power structure to its very core. But sadly, this alliance was torn apart before any real change could be implemented, and not by accident either. In this video, we take a look at the true relationship between these two titans of black pride and how it was systematically broken down to maintain the status quo, and how the very people that they fought so hard to liberate played a key role in their downfall. And most importantly, what lessons can be taken away from this cautionary tale to make sure that history does not repeat itself. This is a story of ambition, betrayal, and resilience. Stay tuned to uncover the truth of their bond, explore the forces that tore them apart, and examine how their message still resonates today. If you're ready to dive into one of the most fascinating yet tragic alliances in history, then this is a video that you don't want to miss. Muhammad Ali was born on January 17, 1942. Then called Cassius Clay, he was an extremely confident young boy who, long before he proclaimed his greatness in front of the world after defeating Sonny Liston, would speak that greatness into existence to his brother and childhood friends as they played out in the street. He had this innate belief that anything was possible if he just put his mind to it. But he lived in a world that would never pass up the opportunity to crush his optimism from the inside out. You see, all the optimism in the world could not change the fact that he was a black boy in a white supremacist world. Jim Crow laws were the order of the day in which all aspects of everyday life were segregated between white and black, meaning that any privileges or even basic human rights that were afforded to white people were legally not accessible to him. Whether that be a young Ali forced to weep from his bedroom window as he watched other kids his age create childhood-defining memories at a whites-only amusement park that was just across the street from him, or when he learnt about Emmett Till, a young black boy similar age to Ali who was mercilessly beaten to death by two fully grown white men for merely whistling at a white woman. Emmett Till was 14 years old when this happened to him. And when he inevitably asked his parents why his people were treated this way, they gave an answer that would never sit right with his soul. You see, Ali's father, just like every other black father at the time, was forced to teach his sons how to navigate through this dangerous world by making themselves as small and unthreatening as possible, not to rock the boat and not to speak up for themselves. But that just wasn't going to work for a boy of Ali's ambition and self-belief. Soon, Ali discovered boxing and worked his way up the amateur ranks to the point where he was good enough to represent his country at the 1960 Olympics in Rome. While in Rome, Ali's eyes were opened. He noticed a distinct absence of white-only and colored-only signs wherever he went. He experienced a freedom of movement he had never known before, especially after winning a gold medal. He went from being treated like a second-class citizen in his own country to being treated like royalty, and this reaffirmed in a still teenage Ali that his childhood optimism was vindicated, and that anything was indeed possible if he just put his mind to it. But sadly, once again, this optimism was crushed the moment he stepped back on American shores. Ali decided to celebrate his homecoming as an Olympic champion by going out for dinner, but upon entering the restaurant, with the gold medal still draped around his neck, he was once again met with the words, "We don't serve your kind here." Ali stormed out feeling more defeated than ever, and this was the moment he realized, no matter what he did, no matter how hard he worked, no matter what he achieved, as long as he lived in a white supremacist world, he would always be a second-class citizen. He grabbed his gold medal and tossed it into the river as he deemed it just as worthless as his country deemed him. When the young Ali traveled to Chicago to participate in a boxing match, he was walking down the street during his downtime, and it led to a chance encounter that would not only change his life forever, but change the course of world history forever as well. He encountered a group of Nation of Islam members who were preaching and handing out literature in the streets. After a brief conversation with one of them, he was handed a record made by Louis X, who would later go on to be known as Louis Farrakhan. The record was called White Man's Heaven, Black Man's Hell. Ali took this record with him and continued to replay the song over and over again as he became truly infatuated with the message. You see, the Nation of Islam on the surface were a black power organization led by a man called Elijah Muhammad. He preached the divinity of the black man and the inherent evil of the white race. A belief that by modern standards may seem extreme and radical, but in the context of the world that Ali grew up in, suffocated by Jim Crow laws and white supremacist propaganda, it is easy to see how a young impressionable mind could be swayed into clinging on to this ideology, believing that it provided the answers to the questions that had haunted him since childhood. After turning professional, Muhammad Ali moved down to Miami and began to immerse himself more and more in the Muslim community, until one day he and his brother traveled up to Detroit for a big Nation of Islam rally that would not only be attended by Elijah Muhammad himself, but also his second in command, the man who to many was the actual face of the movement, Malcolm X.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. We're brutalized because we are black people in America. I'm speaking as a black man from America, which is a racist society. No matter how much you hear it talk about democracy, it's as racist as South Africa, or as racist as Portugal, or as racist as any other racialist society on this earth.
We're nonviolent with people who are nonviolent with us, but we are not nonviolent with anyone who is violent with us.
Malcolm was a towering figure in the black community, a beacon of hope and aspiration for anyone who heard him speak. He began his adult life as a street criminal who, by his own admission, entrenched himself in any illegal activities you could think of. All this eventually caught up with him, and he spent 6 years in prison in the late 1940s. During this time, he himself discovered the Nation of Islam and began to study and refine his mind in prison until he was released in 1952. It was then he officially joined the Nation of Islam and began preaching for them, and it wasn't long until he became known as one of the most intelligent and articulate political speakers in the country, often winning debates with white university graduates as a black ex-convict. Seeing a black man accomplish these feats while coming from the exact same struggle as them inspired countless young black men across the country, especially Muhammad Ali, who ended up meeting with Malcolm at a diner before the rally. And for the first time in his life, a young Ali was left speechless, truly starstruck in the presence of his hero. Malcolm, in contrast, had no idea who Muhammad Ali even was at that point, but nonetheless, he grew fond of Ali and took him under his wing, becoming his spiritual and political mentor in secret of the public eye. Their teacher-student relationship quickly morphed into a true friendship, more of a big brother-little brother relationship. However, in the shadows, the seeds of their downfall were already being sown. Tensions between Malcolm and the Nation of Islam were slowly brewing behind closed doors due to a number of factors. Malcolm's fame and influence began to make other members jealous. This was encouraged even further by the FBI, who had a deep-seated fear of Malcolm and his influence. They planted double agents in the organization to undermine Malcolm X and fan the flames of resentment at every opportunity. Malcolm X himself also began to grow more and more disillusioned with the movement, as he not only began to intellectually outgrow the Nation of Islam, he also became frustrated with Elijah Muhammad himself, not only for his reluctance to commit to actions that would actually bring about some tangible change for his people, but Elijah Muhammad's own personal misconduct as well. Malcolm had began to hear whispers that he had impregnated a number of his teenage secretaries and was refusing to provide for the children who were products of his affairs. All of this came to a head when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. Elijah Muhammad commanded all of his ministers not to comment on the death of the president and that he himself would make the sole statement on the matter. In his statement, he expressed his sadness at the president's passing. However, Malcolm X saw this as deeply hypocritical given the doctrines taught by the Nation of Islam, and he had other ideas.
You say, Malcolm? Well, I said the same thing that everybody says, that his assassination was the result of the climate of hate. But only I said the chickens came home to roost, and which means the same thing.
This outburst gave Elijah the excuse he needed to silence Malcolm, firmly ostracizing him from the movement. Now he was out in the cold, and with very little friends, Malcolm turned to Muhammad Ali, who was currently focusing on his upcoming title fight with Sonny Liston, and was too distracted to pay too much attention to the deeper politics of the nation at the time. Malcolm took his family down to Miami to stay with Ali, and this only made their bond grow even stronger, as not only was Ali there for Malcolm in his time of need, the reverse was true as well. Muhammad Ali on the surface was extremely confident going into the Sonny Liston fight, but behind closed doors nothing could be further from the truth. Ali was terrified of Liston, and with good reason too. Liston was a wrecking ball, the most dominant champion of his generation, who made a habit of nonchalantly breaking down his opponents in a couple rounds or less. Many people not only feared for Ali's undefeated record, they also feared for his life if he ever shared the ring with Liston. And it seemed that on fight night, Ali may have shared those same fears as he grew more and more anxious in the locker room before the ring walk. Malcolm came into the locker room to calm him down. They spoke and prayed together, and Malcolm looked his friend right in the eye and told him how much he believed in him. This quelled Ali's anxiety and allowed him to walk into the ring for the biggest fight of his life, fully confident in his ability. And Ali did his friend proud. He put on a masterful display where he used his speed, timing, and beautiful footwork to completely neutralize Liston's power. Even Liston's attempts to cheat his way to victory didn't work, as Liston instructed his corner to contaminate his gloves so he could rub them in Ali's face and impair his vision. This only slowed him down for a single round though, and once Ali's vision was restored, it was business as usual. Disheartened by this, and with no clear path to victory, Liston refused to come out of his corner for round 7, citing a shoulder injury as the reason for his refusal. But nonetheless, what this truly meant was Muhammad Ali was now heavyweight champion of the world. The whole crowd erupted once the victory was announced, with Ali jumping around the ring in jubilation, screaming his now famous line, "I shook up the world." The celebrations continued long after he exited the arena, and Ali went back to his hotel room at Hampton House Motel with his brother Rudy, musician Sam Cooke, NFL player Jim Brown, and Malcolm X himself. This meeting has gone on to become the stuff of legend, where many things were discussed, but most notably it was Malcolm encouraging Ali to see his new status as world champion as a responsibility where he should use his influence to help bring about positive societal change for his people. And this seemed to have worked, as less than a week after the Liston fight, Ali not only publicly came out as a member of the Nation of Islam, now referring to himself as Cassius X instead of Cassius Clay. Malcolm also introduced Ali to numerous African political figures as Malcolm's wider vision for solving race relations in America began to take shape. He connected himself with leaders in the African and Arab world, so he would have allies in his corner for when he took America's mistreatment of black people all the way up to the United Nations. He believed that this was the only way to force America to commit to change. And with Ali being the world champion and the most famous man on the planet, he will play a critical role as a public spokesperson for this new Pan-African movement.
The power structure had successfully created the image of the American Negro as someone with no confidence, no militancy, and they had done this by giving him images of heroes that weren't truly militant or confident. And now here come Cassius, the exact contrast of everything that was representative of the Negro image. He said he was the greatest. All of the odds were against him. He upset the odds makers. He won. He became victorious. He became the champ. They knew that as soon as, if people began to identify with Cassius and the type of image he was creating, they were going to have trouble out of these Negroes, because they'd have Negroes walking around the streets saying, "I'm the greatest."
However, with great change also comes great resistance. and the US government, now teaming up with the Nation of Islam under the common enemy of Malcolm X, sought to undermine this movement by any means necessary.
With Elijah Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Having dinner with him.
Uh-huh. One of the main reasons is your friendship with Malcolm X. He's a friend of yours now, isn't he?
Yeah. He was a brother of mine. He's my brother. Whatever he do, he's my brother.
Uh-huh. Now that he's split away from the Muslims...
I don't know about splitting. I'll have to see the higher authority.
Elijah Muhammad called Ali and explicitly instructed him that he wasn't to associate with Malcolm X any further, and that he was also to meet with Elijah in person. In this meeting, Elijah Muhammad gave the then Cassius X his name Muhammad Ali. Being given an original name was seen as a great honor in the Nation of Islam, a clear political move to gain Ali's favor. However, the move appeared to work as Ali publicly cut ties with Malcolm X, branding him as a traitor to the Nation of Islam. They both traveled to Africa at the same time, and they unintentionally crossed paths outside a hotel in Ghana. Malcolm saw Ali and tried to call him over, but Ali just turned and told him that he was wrong for betraying Elijah Muhammad. He turned back and walked away. And this was the last time they ever saw each other.
Get your hand out of my pocket!
Malcolm X was assassinated on February 25, 1965, at the Audubon Ballroom in New York, in front of his wife and children. And just like that, the brightest light of black liberation in America was extinguished by the very same people he was fighting so hard to free. The true plot to kill Malcolm X is still officially a mystery to this day, as the men who were initially convicted of his murder were exonerated in 2021 and were paid over $40 million in compensation. This was due to a deathbed confession of an undercover police informant who claimed that he and the police department were allegedly complicit in the murder and intentionally let the real killers walk free.
After Ray's passing, I found a confession letter. This letter details the FBI, and the NYPD's involvement in the assassination of Malcolm X, and how he was forced to betray his people.
Malcolm did say before his death that the police had fully infiltrated the Nation of Islam, and this does appear to be the case, as both American law enforcement and the nation allegedly conspired together to silence this powerful voice of change. A voice that, despite his enemies' best efforts, still echoes throughout the world today.
What you and I have to let the man know is we are peaceful people. We are loving people. We love everybody who loves us. But we don't love anybody who doesn't love us. So whatever kind of action program can be devised to get us the things that are ours by right, then I'm for that kind of action no matter what the action is. I don't think when a man is being criminally treated that some criminal has the right to tell that man what tactics to use to get the criminal off his back.
After the death of Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad officially denied any involvement in the murder, but otherwise did very little to hide it, and not long after Malcolm's murder, he cryptically voiced the sentiment that anyone else who opposed him would end up with the same fate. Muhammad Ali was in attendance for this speech, and he also began to parrot Elijah's view that Malcolm was a traitor and he got what he deserved.
Anybody else who attacks or talks about attacking Elijah Muhammad will die. No man can oppose the message of Almighty God verbally or physically and get away with it.
Now, on the surface, you could say that Muhammad Ali was the bad guy in this situation. He turned his back on his friend who had shown him nothing but love and support, and callously shrugged off his death as some sort of divine justice. But of course, like with most things in life, once you peel back the layers, the truth is a little more complicated. Ali himself had his own conflicts with the Nation of Islam before Malcolm X even died. Ali's former bodyguard once told the FBI that Muhammad Ali was growing frustrated with the Nation of Islam as early as 1965 over how often he was expected to make hefty donations to the movement. His bodyguard even stated that he thought Ali was a fool for letting them take advantage of him. Ali was firmly entrenched in the NOI and had seen the types of violence they were capable of. And after hearing Elijah's speech after the assassination, it is completely reasonable to assume that it was fear and not malice that was Ali's motivation for turning his back on his friend. Keep in mind, to the rest of the world, Ali seemed like this fearless warrior, a world champion who fought the world's most feared opponents in and out the ring. But behind all the bravado, he was still a human being, only 22 years old and pushed to the forefront of world politics. He was most likely out of his depth and terrified. He never dared go against Elijah Muhammad, even after the Nation of Islam turned their backs on him as well when he was exiled from boxing due to his stance on the Vietnam War. His boxing license was taken away, and once the money dried up, so too did their support for him. Regardless, he still never publicly said a bad word about the nation even after this. It was only when Elijah Muhammad himself died that Ali swiftly left the movement the very second he thought it was safe to do so. And once he did, he quickly reached out to Malcolm's wife and children and offered them support in any way they needed. They remained in close contact until Ali's passing in 2016.
Love is a mighty thing. Devotion is a mighty thing. And truth always reigns. Having Muhammad Ali in my life somehow sustained my dad's breath for me. Just a little while longer. 51 years longer. Until now.
Later in Ali's life, he wrote the following statement in his autobiography. Turning my back on Malcolm was one of the mistakes that I regret most in my life. I wish I'd been able to tell Malcolm I was sorry, that he was right about so many things, but he was killed before I got the chance. Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X's friendship is just as much a cautionary tale as it is an inspiring one. We need to learn from history or else we're destined to repeat it. And this particular chapter of history is filled with life lessons, not only about the dangers of falling for divide and conquer tactics and the importance of prioritizing unity over infighting, but also how young men like Muhammad Ali can be indoctrinated into a cult when the society they grow up in denies them basic human rights and dignity. When people are left in pain and confusion, there will always be opportunists ready to exploit them for their own malicious gain. And if someone as beloved and inspiring as Muhammad Ali can fall prey to this, what hope does any other child have? Every time you turn on the news or open up a history book and see a group of extremists, remember that each one of them started off as an innocent child, just like Ali, searching for answers when he first encountered the Nation of Islam on the streets of Chicago. Now, I wanted to end this video on a more positive note, because even though their alliance was short-lived and it didn't come anywhere close to achieving its potential, look at what they still managed to accomplish, even with all that potential left on the table. Both of these men have gone on to inspire and give hope to millions around the world, whether that be the Black Panther Party, the rise of hip-hop protest music, or the modern Black Lives Matter movement. Their stance on being unapologetically free has inspired everything that's come after them. And from my own personal experience, being a mixed-race kid experiencing racism from a young age, without any positive black role models, these two men inspired me like no other. I listened to their interviews and speeches and I was captivated by their intelligence, their empathy, and their bravery. It gave me a sense of pride and identity, and most importantly, a moral compass that I otherwise would not have had. They had to go through the indoctrination and come out the other side, so I didn't have to, and I know I'm not the only one who can say that. So to Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X, I just want to say thank you. So that's it, guys. That is my breakdown of the historic relationship between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Let me know in the comments below which one of these two great men inspired you the most. And of course, if you watched this far into the video, you may as well hit that like button and also hit the sub button, most importantly, so you don't miss any of the great future content we got coming up very soon. And the next one is going to be a big one. I am going to go through the entire history of the color line in boxing. It's going to be a really good, in-depth, well-researched video, guys, so make sure you hit that sub button so you don't miss it. But until then, guys, peace.